Hello and welcome to another episode of the Contractor Grow Show. My name is Mark. I'm your host. And today I'm speaking with David Konechne from Soft Rock Construction Management right down the road here in Greenwood Village, Colorado. David, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, so you guys are up to some interesting stuff, kind of construction management at the commercial level. Also sounds like some residential. I'd love to hear the story of Soft Rock, how you guys got started. I know it was a partnership and how you and your partner got started with that and kind of where things are at today.
Yeah, I mean, it all started, I think a lot of construction in kind of the past coming years really went digital, I guess I call it, where, a lot of bigger companies and a lot of smaller companies as well were servicing their clients, and they had a business development side, they had a pre-construction side, they had an estimating side, then they actually had a project management side to run the project, and then they had a whole another department that did closeout, warranty handling, and all that. And the company I was working for, I had a lot of clients reach out to me and saying, hey, we just want one point of contact. It's great that there's all these other things, but I can't go from Joe to Will to Cynthia to whomever, and the call was there. And my business partner, myself, who was part owner of the company I was working for at the time, decided we wanted to kind of get back to analog. One point of contact, client relations that we build relationships on. We still have all those other divisions within our company, business development, estimating, closeout, and that as well. But what we really wanted to get back was servicing our clients at a level that they preferred. So we split off. Yeah, we split off, started Soft Rock. Our first 10 clients were clients that we previously worked with and have continued to work with. I think about 90% of our clientele are return clients, whether that's Belco, Crestone, Comcast, Janus Henderson is another one where, like I said, they really gravitated towards that one point of contact. And all those companies, as you probably know, have used bigger GCs in the past, and that was their biggest complaint, was maybe they didn't feel their voice was being heard, or they were getting passed off, and it just seemed to be like a lack of communication in their project. So we wanted to bring that back to, like I said, one point of contact with me as reference. And 4 years ago, we split off and we started that, and we've grown from working in my basement from 4 people up to almost 20 employees today.
Wow.
And yeah,
man, I love that. So you and your partner, Jay Terry Hauge, you guys were working together, at different levels on some other projects. And then you realized, man, I love that. And I'm really actually very interested to hear about this idea of you saw in the industry how it wasn't working well because of all these points of contact. I mean, these are serious brands you're working with: Comcast, Belco, Henderson.
Yep.
And so, this idea of sort of, I suppose, shortening the iteration cycles of working with these guys, where instead of them dealing with Sally over here and Jim over there, they've got your number, they can give you a call, and they can say, look, this thing's, stalling out over here, getting some permit. We're still waiting on design over here. How does that serve your customers? It sounds incredibly valuable. How does that serve your customers to have that one point of contact? It speeds up projects. Does it make things, does it flow, value flow to them in other ways? How does that serve them?
Well, yeah, I think there's a number of valuable items in there. One, communication is one of the biggest things, and that has a couple advantages to it as well. Like you said, it helps with schedule wise, right? Because you're not waiting for an approval from one department to go to the next department to the next department. One point of contact ensures they know where they're at in the permitting process. So I always have my hand at a high level, even though they may have a project manager assigned to the project, a project coordinator, perhaps business admin, for any of that to help assist with that. So we do all of our permitting in-house because we found that helps expedite for our clients rather than using a secondary permitting service as well. So we do all of our online accounts and permitting for them, schedule wise, and we feel that we can condense that down a lot more for them as well. on that end. And if you condense schedule, you're also saving them cost, right? So general condition requirements, insurance, you can imagine if it was a 12-week project and you can close that down to a 10-week project, there's some inherent savings there. Your client's also able, like in Belco's case, right? They're able to open their branch or, their bank site and start getting some ROI back. They can start opening accounts. They can start servicing their clients as well. So that's probably the biggest thing in that kind of holistic birth to death, one point of contact. There's a number of advantages. And like I said, I think as people went on, in Janus Henderson's, Belco, those are some big name clients out there. They've been through it before with big GCs and they weren't seeing those efficiencies. In Belco's case, they had a pretty big GC. They brought us in to build their prototype. We built their prototype in 10 months, which was the fastest prototype ever built for a substantial reduced cost. And they got a higher quality project, we feel, as well. So,
man, I love it. I love Belco too.
Belco's great.
Yeah. Yep. Love these local names here. We're here in Denver together, and it's always cool when I get to be on a call with folks here in the Denver Front Range area, right? And hear what they're up to and how they're adding value, right? I mean, you guys have got 20 employees. I mean, that's a serious employer here in the Denver area. So I love that too. Dave, can I ask, if you are the point of contact for all of these different elements of the project, mm-hmm. you have to have your communication with all of your different team members super on point. Can I ask, not asking especially for details here, but I mean, are there any communication like tools that are especially valuable, or even just kind of tips of like how you guys have structured things? I mean, you've got 20 different people you need to talk to a day, get updates on things, and so that your customers can just talk with you, right? But I mean, we struggle with that ourselves some, right? I mean, we've just got things all over the place here, and folks want to talk to me in many cases. And so, me having things kind of updated right to the most recent level. I mean, any tips or tools that you guys use to communicate with your team that really kind of manages the chaos, if you will?
Yeah, I think there's a couple tools, and I think the old school tool is pick up the phone. Nice. As much as we live in a day and age where people like to email and send those out and get them back, there's a lapse there, right? You pick up the phone. And I do it with clients too. If clients are emailing me and we're emailing back and forth, I will stop emailing, pick up the phone and call that client saying, hey, rather than exchanging 20 emails, let's just get on a call here for 5 minutes. Same thing goes for our business, right? Superintendent, project managers, coordinators, I can call them up. Hey, where are we at with the closeout on this particular project? Where are we at with permitting? Pick up the phone, number one. Number two is do have some software in place. For us, we use Procore. It's kind of the biggest thing out there in the construction world. Autodesk Build is catching up, but Procore is a great tool to utilize if you utilize it efficiency as a construction company, right? So for instance, our Belco project up in Longmont, I can log on to Procore. I can see the daily logs. I can see the pictures. I can see the schedule, and I know instantly if that project's on track, right? If I'm looking at schedule and it says we should have foundations in and foundations are in, it looks like we're tracking pretty good. And then do I necessarily need to reach out to that superintendent who's Dana at this point? No, I can log on to Procore. I can utilize that tool from my phone, from my laptop, and make sure that I can touch base on that project as well. And then every month too is the financials, right? We pour, as a smaller company, you got to have your hand on the pulse of the financial part. And that obviously shows if your product's doing well or not too. If it's financially strong, you're not sending owner change orders, you're getting stuff done, you're keeping on schedule, the financials reflect that, right? The biggest red flag is, usually when you look at a financial part of a project and that project isn't doing so great, you look on Procore and you're behind on schedule a week or two, this isn't going well, some submittals are behind, what have you. So like I said, the two biggest things for us is the analog part, pick up the phone, call people. It's more time efficient than exchanging 20 emails. But on the other side, utilizing the digital world to your advantage too, and using Procore, Autodesk Build to keep pace on your projects at a high level. If I don't need to waste my time looking at a project that's going smooth, my project managers are running it well, I can do a quick check on Procore and back out and then pay attention to those projects that may need my assistance for whatever reason, right? An architect isn't returning submittals. Maybe we're having a permitting issue that we got to work with ownership on to get some paperwork done in order to pull that through the finish line. And I can better attend my clients that way.
Man, fantastic. So you've got a couple of degrees, right? I mean, you got a Bachelor of Architecture, environmental design, right? Also did some general education coursework at another university. How has you having a degree in architecture helped with the just kind of general construction knowledge? I mean, you guys are doing a lot of commercial, I've seen that you can just kind of perceive what needs to happen. I mean, you understand how things are built, and you're an architect. I mean, have a degree in architecture. How has that background been helpful for you guys to grow the company and for you ultimately to kind of know what's going on in the building site and to be able to, I don't know, foresee problems before they happen and be able to kind of see things in your head, and how things should run?
Yeah. So first and foremost, shout out to North Dakota State University. Excellent architectural program out there.
Awesome.
Always harking back. Love North Dakota State, but their program was really geared more towards a construction architecture program, right? Sustainability, constructability, that sort of thing. So when I got out and finally gave up on my architectural career and moved to the construction side, it was influential in construction, right? One of them is, if you take it from the very beginning, right? When you get a set of plans in, you're able to analyze those plans. You're able to look through there, I think, a lot faster than some people because of the history, right? I drafted plans for 10 years, and that's all the world I worked in. And now I'm trying to interpret those plans to ensure that my client's getting the best price possible, and then limiting change order costs as well on that end. So we're reading fully into the plans. We're asking clarifications on certain things that maybe other general contractors aren't, so that we can clarify and get them a price that reflects what's in those drawings and meets their expectations on that end. So also, another thing is architects, 50 at the time when I graduated, which, 2001, which was a little bit ago, 50% of architects never actually went into architecture, right? Architects are good at planning. They're good at running multiple projects at one time. They have all these attributes that link well to construction. So we've been able to use those attributes in our background to help clients. And one of them is like Comcast. We had to do a SGDP amendment. We did that all in-house on our end. So having some of that architectural background and having some of that in-house also assists too. It also helps assist the architects we work with, right? So if we're on site and we come up with a problem, a lot of GCs will just say, hey, come up, they come to a problem. And the first thing they do is they just submit an RFI to the design team, right? Hey, this is different than, what's shown on the drawings. What do we want to do here? Where our team will come up with options saying, hey, we've identified this issue, but here are several options, perhaps some cost impact to those options as well as time impact. And we've utilized that in the course of construction, in the course of a lot of projects we've done, and it's helped lead them to success.
Oh man, fantastic. So I'm always interested in partnerships, right? And so, I mean, you have a partnership, Jay Terry Hauge is your partner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always curious, I've always, in the companies that I've owned, I've always been the one guy owning it, right? I mean, my wife and I really own this company together, but, I've got my kind of hand in everything. I'm just curious, and not getting too in the weeds about it, but I mean, how do you make some decisions as a partnership about kind of your role and Jay Terry's role? I mean, how do you guys sort of, we talk to folks that are in partnerships, construction companies, and I'm always just curious. I mean, I get the sense that, you're an amazing communicator. Haven't talked with Jay Terry. I'm sure he's an amazing communicator as well. But, I saw looking at your stuff that's something it's kind of really, I think is part of your, strong skill set. And I get that from talking with you as well. Any tips on how, like, running a partnership, it can serve, company owners when they've got 2 or 3 partners in a company to, to kind of have their role and to let other people do their role and to really kind of, 2 + 2 = 7, right? I mean, to actually have a synergistic partnership that really works over the long term.
Yeah, and from the very beginning when I met Terry, he actually hired me at his other company We always had good communication. I think we had a lot of the same ideas and the same pathway as far as, how we treat clients, how we treat our employees, and move a company forward. So personality wise, I think we had a lot of the same things in common there. But when we started Soft Rock, I don't want to call it a dictatorship, probably isn't the right word, right? We all like to sit, this should be a democracy and everyone gets their say. But in the end all be all, Terry's had a lot of experience. He's been through a lot of situations that I've been to. Every time I would come up with a situation and be like, hey, Terry, I'm having an issue on this project. He's like, I'll tell you what, man, I did it this time 5 times and it never worked. I did it this way 1 time and it worked. Do this way. So I think part of that is building trust in your partners too, right? Like you said, each of them have strong suits and what they're good at. And Terry was really good at a lot of things, contracts, client relationships. And so I'd always kind of pie on him as far as what should I do here? And, back before, I worked with Terry, we would spend every Friday, we'd spend 30, 45 minutes just talking. Not even necessarily about projects, just about how construction in general should work and philosophy and that sort of thing. So we were always kind of on the same path, but in the end all be all, Terry's got the last say, right? We bounce ideas off each other. He's got that experience. We've relied on that experience, and that's heavily what's pushed us forward in 4 years, is relying on that experience of past history that he's had to move stuff forward. And then also us gaining new clients and some of my ideas integrating into that, pushing forward as well. So like I said, my voice doesn't go unheard. And it is a little bit of democracy, but in the end, all be all. I think like any partnership, and I've owned businesses before, there is someone ultimately that has to make that decision. So I always cede that to Terry and support him 100% on that. And I think that's the other thing too is, once you make a decision, everyone's going to buy into it and push forward. Because if someone isn't bought in on that, that's a problem. I don't think you end up pushing that idea or part of your business as far as it should be on that end. So, make a decision, do what's best for your company interest, not your personal interest or what have you, and push that idea forward. And then everyone just needs to support that idea. And that goes everything from ownership to project management to guys out in the field as well. Everyone's just got to be behind that in pushing forward. And, one thing that we do that's probably unique to us, at least I've never seen it before in another GC company, is we send out a company update every Friday. So every Friday, we send out a schedule. It shows where everyone's at. It shows upcoming projects where people may go. One thing, especially right now in the Denver community, construction is a little tough for some people. There's a lot of people available. Some people have been downsizing, letting people go. So that gives also a way to reinforce our superintendents. Hey, after this project, you're going to this project, right? So there's no fogginess or gray areas. What's my next project, or what am I coming up on in 2 weeks? We forecast that out about 8 weeks in advance. That's where also we assign all of our manpower. We also let people know what we're looking at in the Denver community, too, what projects we're bidding. So everyone's involved, right? And that's so everyone from a high-level superintendent to our labor knows exactly what's going on in the company. And I think being clear and transparent is one of the advantages to our company as well.
That is awesome, man. Fantastic. And to describe your service, is it end-to-end, single point of contact, commercial construction management? Is this how we would describe it? Or how would you describe the kind of service offering, if you will?
Yeah, obviously we have an expansive service outreach. We've done everything from sidewalks in downtown Denver, getting them poured before the Taylor Swift concert happened, all the way to special projects. We've done a guard station for Comcast, and then we've done the prototypical stuff as well. We've done high-end attorneys' offices, so Kilpatrick Townsend, Robinson Waters Odorosio, we just finished up. In fact, we just finished up a project there today for them. So, and birth to death it is us and one point of contact, right? So having those clients call and being able to service those clients. And like I said, the funny thing is I don't get emails. Almost all my clients now I have trained, they call me. No matter where they're at, So one of them is Kilpatrick Townsend. I'm really fond of. I did a number of projects for them before starting Soft Rock, and they were my very first client. Troy and Dusty over there. And the other day, Dusty just calls me up and says, hey, I need you to come down and look at this, right? She didn't send an email. She didn't reach out to Troy. She just picked up the phone and gave me a call. And I said, hey, I'll meet you guys down there at 11 o'clock and let's walk your project and get going. So, I think that's one thing our clients like too is, their project is always a priority. We always make time to get down there and get their items addressed. It's not like, well, we'll get to you next week or when, so-and-so's available or stuff like that. It's like, no, how soon can we get down there and start looking at your project?
Amazing. And then the service area, I mean, you guys are here in Denver. I mean, are you up and down the Front Range? Are you mostly focused right here in Denver? How far do you guys go?
We're licensed in 42 states. We go
wow.
primarily all up and down the Front Range. We have looked at projects anywhere from California to Atlanta due to some of our client outreach that, we service not only clients in Denver, but if they have other areas of service, we do that as well. So yeah, we have a pretty good outreach as far as the United States, but primarily right now we're concentrating on the Front Range, right? Anywhere from Cheyenne, down to Pueblo has been our main concentration because we do have a few clients that's their concentration, right? So that becomes ours as well to service them. So
amazing. Well, guys, if you're listening to this, as you can tell, once again, I can't believe how the quality of guests that we have on the show and how just incredibly smart they are. David, thank you so much for sharing your time, man. It's just all kinds of great lessons in here. I'm always taking feverish notes, right? But, one point of contact, the values, the value of having one point of contact is, great communication, right? Going analog, having the phone. I mean, it's amazing that we've all kind of shifted digital. We all want to communicate via, email and text. But, ultimately the way this serves customers is to take, for instance, a project that's going to take 12 weeks, make it take 10 weeks, especially for commercial customers. I mean, that extra 2 weeks is key for them being able to come in and build some ROI. Talked about tools, the phone being the main one.
Yeah.
And, in partnerships and basically, trusting your partner to, and everybody getting buy-in on a decision and then going with it and saying, this is what we said we're going to do. And just having that trust, not, second guessing everything constantly. And, it's, and then sending out the schedule every Friday. So, I mean, your guys are nervous about not having work next week, right? You want to get really high quality people on your team, and those people need to know what, the future looks like for them. And so actually sending out the schedule saying, this is where you're going to be next week, this is what's going to happen, is just a huge piece of kind of retention, keeping everybody, happy and comfortable, and also just kind of letting everyone know what's going on. Mm-hmm. David, fantastic, man. If folks want to, are listening to this, they're looking for a great, end-to-end, one point of contact, life to death, commercial, project manager, and builder, or if folks are in the, Denver area, Front Range area, looking for a great team to work on, what are a couple of the best ways to get in touch with you guys?
I'll tell you what, I mean, our phone. Pick up the phone call is always what I like. It's always the best thing, personally, all that. Obviously, they can always submit stuff through our website, inquiry requests, stuff like that. But the biggest thing, like I said, is probably where I go analog is pick up the phone. There's a lot you can harvest in a 5-minute conversation and exchange an email and, let's talk about your project. Let's outline what your goals are. I mean, the biggest thing for me is just interviewing those clients, right? What's your goals? What do you want to do? What are you looking to get out of this? And are some of those realistic too? Because, some clients, you got to help them along in that process and set those realistic goals. Permitting in Denver is different than permitting in Firestone. So helping them through that process and, how can we be of value to them to help their project? Pick up the phone.
Dude, I love it. The phone number on, SoftRock's site is 303-225-0820. You can get in touch with David there. And, their website is softrockconstruction.com. Fantastic. David, thank you so much for spending your valuable time with us today. And really looking forward to hearing how things kind of unfold here over the next year or two for you guys.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity again, Mark.